According to USA Today, because of the COVID-19 outbreak, many Americans haven't seen or touched another person in 3 months. And now you know what it feels like to be married for 10 years.
Medical experts say the official numbers are much higher than what the White House is currently reporting. But enough about Trump's cholesterol.
After complaining about North Carolina's Democratic governor remaining in shutdown mode, President Trump has threatened to move this summer's Republican convention out of North Carolina. Trump campaign officials are reportedly hoping they'll be able to move the convention to 1933 Nuremberg.
It's been revealed that a Great Clips hair salon in Missouri may have recently infected up to 140 customers with COVID-19. Fortunately, it's Missouri and the virus can't penetrate a mullet.
And finally, President Trump has been accused of promoting posts from a racist Twitter feed. The Twitter feed? At Donald J. Trump Jr. The Trump Report starts now.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome to the Trump Report. I hope that everybody's Memorial Day was enjoyable, but not even remotely festive, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I'm Christian Bladt, joined as always by my partner in mirth making, Tamra Brown.
Hi there.
Congratulations on the Run Lola Run cosplay. Maybe Alias is a better cultural
Don't get
reference.
the reference.
It's all right. It's a movie.
What? No?
It's a great movie too.
It is a great movie.
Scott Moore likes the movie. It's in German though.
I got that one. And I laughed really hard.
All right, nerds like my reference is what that means. But it is a German movie from like 2002, so it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
it's great, though. It's a good one to check out.
By the way, incredibly complimentary. It is in no way derogatory because I love the new look. And for those that are listening to the audio, you're missing out. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. And if you do check us out on YouTube, you'll see our other co-host, the one, the only Chelsea Galicia.
Well, hello there.
Thank you all for being here. And what was everyone's 4th of July? 4th of July. You know what? It might as well have been. Honestly, how was everybody's Christmas? It's all going to be one. You know, it all runs together. So what were the crowds like for you, Tamra, being out and about on Memorial Day? Do you feel like we're all still in this together, or is it summer and it's time to party?
I think I was telling Scott just before we started that I went up to a park that I would normally go running, where I'd go running before any of this started, and it was more crowded on Saturday than it was pre-pandemic on a Saturday. I was very disappointed at how busy it was. I had been, when I wear a mask outside my house except for when I was running because it was hard to breathe and there were too many people, or like I would avoid people, but I am now running with a mask on because I feel like I need to promote, like, people, we need to wear masks no matter what. So I was disappointed at the crowds. And also I feel like everybody, another place I went to just to like sit outside, people were sort of distanced, but there was like 2 people who were on a blanket smoking in this little park. And I was like, you wouldn't have done that in normal times. Like, you're not allowed to smoke here. Like, I feel like people are just taking liberties of just like, rules don't apply to me. Anything goes.
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit of the Wild West right now. It's like, well, what can we get away with? I mean, look, we're already wearing bandanas around our faces, so why don't we let it be the Old West? Scott Moore, did you make it to a pool party in Missouri, or did you do something different this weekend?
No, I mean, I was going to say it was pretty lame because I had to work a little bit yesterday, but my friend was like, hey, do you want to go down to the beach? And I just didn't even want to venture because I was afraid. And this is honest to goodness truth that I was going to have to go to the bathroom and there's going to be nothing open. So everything was closed. So I had this fear of like, where would I go to the bathroom? And so I was like, I'm just going to avoid it this weekend. And I figured it was going to be really crowded anyway.
You were worried about where to go to the bathroom. Scott, Have you heard of the ocean?
It's cold and polluted.
Yeah, well, I know, and I good for you to try to not pollute it worse.
I like that because it's cold. That's what's keeping Scott from going in the ocean. It's cold. It's too cold.
Hey, the waves wash it away. All right. And we're just talking about number one. All right. Nobody's going number two in the ocean. Well, at least not any of us. Chelsea, did you do anything festive, or was it a little bit? Was it more subdued over there at Casa de Galicia?
It was definitely subdued here at Casa de Galicia. The only time I went out was to walk with a friend, and we were both wearing masks. And we walked like around the Rose Bowl for a little piece of it. And I was expecting to see a lot of people, and I didn't. And it's sort of been my walk these days. And I was surprised that this weekend I didn't see a ton of people around. Much less, in fact, than 3-4 days ago. So I think everybody around here was at least thinking, wow, so many people are going to be out around the Rose Bowl that I shouldn't go. And then so nobody went, and it was just me and a couple of people hanging out with the golfers.
Or they all went to the beach and were using it like a toilet, as Scott was afraid to. But no, look, it's I don't know that it falls into the talking points that she's prepared for her every day. But Dr. Burke said she's very concerned by the images that we all saw. I mentioned the pool party in Missouri, and I wouldn't call that a pool party. I think that's like, I don't know, a rave in the water. I mean, it's like a pool party you feel like you might be able to swim in there. That's just a bunch of people standing in water getting drunk. And I understand.
Speaking of going number one in the water,
just looking at the murkiness of that water in that photo, it's disgusting.
Very.
Yeah, and I think look, you're seeing. I think that there are certainly a lot of people who felt like, all right, I think I've done my part, or maybe haven't done their part. I think that. At this point, it's like, all right, well, it's all right. It seems like everything's okay. Let's I would think that, as things start to dial back and people are able to get out, you would think you would do things incrementally. You wouldn't go from, being in the underground bunker like I am, and then immediately, to going to Cabo for a long weekend, but it seems like maybe that's what the mentality is. And the health officials in Missouri have asked for the people who are partying at this place called Lake of the Ozarks, which I have to admit, I don't know. I can't think of a worse travel destination than some place called Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. I would much rather go to Branson, Missouri, because at least you could take in a show. Maybe
they're nearby each other. I spent summers there as a kid.
There's probably like 8 Cracker Barrels in Branson, so I would be happy. But I don't know what. Since you're our resident expert on Missouri, all of a sudden, what is the I don't want to say what's the mentality, but what, that area, I assume that obviously you're not there right now. Would you assume that that's a place where they're like, yeah, I don't really believe that this is happening? Or is it more that they just don't care whether or not it's true? They just want to go party?
I have no idea. They have a Republican governor, so I know that the governor was advocating for businesses to open back up. So I guess that sends a statewide mentality that, things are back to normal. And the group of people in those photos not wearing masks, not distancing at all, like that's just clearly a group of people that are willfully ignorant about the reality of the situation. So I suppose if your state leaders are going to be advocating something, actually, no, I don't think if you're going to be ignoring science, you're probably not listening to your state leaders, no matter what political party they belong to. So I take that back.
Well, I think I've noticed something that, with Memorial Day weekend, it's, a lot of it is about shopping and sales and all that. And I didn't see, or at least the media didn't show, a lot of like shopping type of crowds. These were, people congregating. And it is ironic to me that with this culture of American, like, I'm in it for myself, I pull myself up by my own bootstraps, I'm an individual, and I take care of myself, very self-centered in the most literal sense of that word, that people are starving for socialization. And I think it just goes to show how much we need people, even though on some level, Americans like to say, I don't need anybody. I just need myself. I can take care of myself. But, that's American ingenuity, American rugged individualism. And what we're seeing is that people need other people as much as they need like air. After so long of being isolated, people literally mentally break down because we are programmed to be social animals. So sure, there is ignorance at play, but there's a stronger pull to be around other people. And that's what I think that we're seeing. But the people that are the Americans that are like, well, I'm going to eat whatever I want, even though I know better, or not take care of myself and not work out and be the one smoking, whatever. Those people, when they do get sick, because there's a high chance that they will, are the ones that are going to have major complications and maybe not even survive. And so I think that this illness is going to go through most, if not all of us, and the healthiest will survive. Literally, a Darwinian experiment in a matter of months or a year. But I think this is literally what we're watching the beginning of. I don't know, maybe that's
But
a weird
I think
take,
when there's
but
that many people, it goes beyond just a desperation to socialize, which is true, but to none of them wearing masks, none of them distancing anyway, to me that just indicates defiance.
well, I don't know. I didn't exactly see how old these people were, but they did seem to be younger people. And we'll remember our prefrontal cortexes don't develop till we're like 25, maybe even later, which I think is why we can't rent cars until we're 25. But literally the executive part of your brain that really weighs the realities and consequences and makes those decisions like are not fully formed. And most young people would rather just think that they're invincible. So to go into a pool with a mask.
They weren't young. I mean, it was a whole mix of
Well,
crowd.
I know that's what I was going to say. I was going to add
Then
that,
I got nothing.
no, I was going to say that the social part of it is social with like-minded people. And that's sort of the difference. So it's like, you're going to go with the people that subscribe to you, that's why the people are at pool parties or people are defiantly not wearing masks. Like being social creatures, you want to be social with like-minded people as well, so that you can be part of a group. And I was going to say, my mom lives in Sedona, and she said, this past weekend was the same thing. Like everybody was out in full force. Traffic was crazy. Nobody was wearing masks. Nobody was adhering to social distancing rules. And that it was just, it was made her feel stressed because it was like, all these people are going to leave town now after the weekend, but now there's a good chance that they're going to be infecting locals and, to their own, like you said, selfish acts of wanting to be socially out again, but not, protecting themselves and being defiant is now going to potentially continue to spread this disease. And I said, I don't think it's going to go away at all because people are going to go out and it's just going to keep circulating around now all summer long too, which is too bad.
Yeah, well, obviously there's the other side of Memorial Day. You have the respectful homage to men and women in uniform who tragically lost their lives. Also, the more serious aspect you had, it's sort of it's not that it's any more or less serious. That's a poor choice of phrase. What it is the sort of immediate thing. You have that that very powerful New York Times cover where they just listed the names of 1,000 people who had passed away as we hit 100,000. So,
and also the fact that there's now more casualties because of the virus than in the Vietnam War and Korean War combined.
Right. Yes,
well,
exactly.
every war since World War II combined. Now.
Right. Yeah. And the simple fact is that they could do that cover for the next 100 days. And then of course, by then there would be more. And I don't know. I mean, I think that, they could have packed in as many names as possible, but I thought it was a nice touch that they put a little something about each of the people. I mean, that makes it that much more heartbreaking and sad to see. But at least we have a leader who also was being respectful on Memorial Day weekend and doing something that I think most presidents before him would do. And that's accusing a morning TV host of being a murderer. So I'm really glad that that he picked the time to do that. which unfortunately, if you read about it, it's just a terrible story. It's Joe Scarborough, in case you somehow don't know this story. Just a woman who worked for
I
him.
need a recap.
A woman who worked for him about 20 years ago, and she had a heart condition, and unfortunately, she was working late. She passed out. She hit her head when she passed out, and so then she died. So it's not a story I knew about until President Trump said that Joe Scarborough was a murderer. And you have this woman's widower writing to Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, and just being like, could you just delete these tweets? This is saying that the guy she worked for murder. This is when he was a congressman, when Joe Scarborough was a congressman, not when he worked in television. Anyway, and he's like, so the president is saying that my wife was murdered, and this is kind of really upsetting that this is what people are talking about. And then Twitter just writes this letter like, yeah, we're really sorry that hurt your feelings. All right, next. So they didn't delete the tweets. And I guess, I don't know, there's I guess you don't want to set the precedent of selectively deleting tweets, but I don't know. I think that there are certainly, I don't know. I guess if you delete these tweets from President Trump, then you have to go in and like, how many thousands more are there valid reasons to have to tweet? But the man who wrote the letter, the widower, I don't have his name in front of me. He made the point that like, if he had said that about someone, he would have been kicked off Twitter. But the president says it, and it's all right. So, we don't really need to get into the specifics of that story, but it's, it always makes sense that that President Trump pays no attention to the timing of anything. This is what was important to him right now. And we always talk about that, he must be trying to distract from something, but he definitely chose the I don't know, sort of one of the most somber occasions on our calendar every year, Memorial Day. Now, he and the First Lady did go out to a few sites, a few military events, and they whereas there's footage of Melania wearing a mask on, I guess it's Marine One, which is the helicopter, not Air Force One. Neither of them wore masks in public. Joe Biden apparently came out of his house for the first time in months, which, that's sort of like, I guess, spotting Bigfoot, seeing Joe Biden in the wild. But he and his wife were wearing masks. And I'll admit that Joe Biden in the masks with the aviator sunglasses is a little bit funny, but that didn't that apparently was the occasion for President Trump to make fun of him for wearing the mask. So for being respectful of, one, other people, and two, also Joe Biden realizing how old he is, and how many years older than Trump is he? It's only a few.
4. Yeah, he's 4 years older.
Which one of those guys do you think is in better physical condition? I'm just guessing. I'm not going to talk about. We'll get to mental condition.
Yeah.
But physically, who do you think would be better to fight off a cold or, God forbid, a coronavirus? There's no real answer there. But there he was out there in a mask, and he was being ridiculed for it. So I think it's very interesting. A very long time ago, before his scandal, John Edwards talked about it. There's two Americas. And I think that was kind of on display. That was yesterday. Let me ask you first, Scott, what do you think as you see those images? One, the First Lady feeling like she should wear a mask when she's not in public, but then as soon as she's in public, she, obviously the marching orders that you don't wear them under any circumstances. So what do you think about those two visuals, Scott?
Well, I was going to say, if I was her, I'd always wear a mask around Donald Trump. But
it could be like from the early 80s, there was a stand-up comedian called The Unknown Comic, and he always wore a bag on his head. I think I might do that too, and it would just say First Lady, and then maybe it's her, but maybe it's just a lookalike. Maybe it's
right. Well, I mean, that goes back to the conspiracy theories from before, that she had like a body double and all that was going on for the craziness like a year or so ago, if they were like still together and all this. But I think it's ridiculous. It is on full display that this has become a political divide, and it shouldn't be. And I appreciated the North Dakota governor over the weekend, who's a Republican, and even Governor Mike DeWine from Ohio, another Republican, who was saying, hey, this is this is not a political thing. You shouldn't be calling out people for wearing masks. And, I give my kudos to those governors that are trying to say, hey, this is not a political thing. And the fact that Donald Trump continues to make it a political thing, and him just not wearing a mask, like just when he was on the tour to the Ford factory last week, just again is just showing the irresponsibility of him not, at least showing an attempt at leadership. At least Joe Biden is showing an attempt at leadership by coming out and wearing a mask. Having him make fun of it. And Brit Hume, I mean, it was ridiculous that Brit Hume, like, what has happened to him? I used to somewhat respect him as a journalist, and now he's become another lapdog for the Trump regime. It shouldn't even be to that point that we're making fun of people for choosing to wear masks or not, because at the end of the day, like Chelsea was saying, this individual, rugged individualism and everything is great to a point, but it's not realistic. And I always tell people, and it sounds liberal, woohoo kind of stuff, but I get my flu shot every year, not for myself, but to help protect people like in my family that have type 1 diabetes, for people that I could come across at the store, an older woman in front of me that I don't get it for, but I give it to her and then she dies from complications. It's, the fact that we've completely shut down from looking out for us as a community, and knowing that, the better off that I am health-wise, the better off, if I can protect other people. And turning it into a political issue was silly and foolish. And I was very disappointed with even Brit Hume, making fun of Joe Biden. And I appreciate the Republicans that do call out, saying this is not a political thing, because it really shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be.
I mean, maybe that this is sort of the culture war that, there are pieces of race and all of that in this sort of culture war, but maybe this is what it really is about. Is it the traditional American individualism, or is it realizing that we are actually a collective of people, and that's our biggest asset? I always, our leader of AfterBuzz, Keven Undergaro, in my head, I always remember him, saying that sometimes what gets you to Egypt won't get you to the promised land. And I feel like because we have had this rugged individualism thing for so long, and that's how America became America, that's what we should stick to. It's gotten us this far. That's the right thing. Well, it got us this far, but to go further, to live better, now we take those skills that we've individually collected and we work together for the sake of all of us. And I think that is, to me, the dividing of America, is whether we should just stick to our own liberties, freedoms, individual selves, or whether we should think for the larger, greater good for the benefit of ourselves and other people. And I think that's, to me, what defines the two Americas. I think, I don't know if anybody else has a different dividing line, but I'm trying to understand, beyond Republican and Democrat, what is this divide that's showing up so much with this pandemic?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I agree with you. I think that there, you can quibble about what the dividing line is, but it's, oddly enough, we're so much, I didn't imagine over the last 3 years that how divided we are would continue to get so compounded. And then obviously when you have a health crisis in the middle of it, it becomes a little bit easier. I think that sort of what I was alluding to earlier, you don't get the feeling that everybody's kind of in this for themselves. I think you have people that their thinking is, I'm not worried about it. Like those people who went to the pool party, and they're, and just large
because
gatherings.
I'm not worried about it for me.
I'm going to be
Right.
okay. And also, I mean, you also have people that are like, well, I don't believe it. It's like, okay, but other people do. And it's almost like, I mean, you run into problems. Like there's a video that was circulating over the weekend of, people at a supermarket in Staten Island that basically chased this woman out who didn't have a mask on, and she should have been wearing the mask. But it was almost like, it's Staten Island, so it gave people an excuse to try to get somebody who's different out of a crowd. So, it felt like old times for them. But I think that, you're just sort of seeing that there are a lot of people. It's like, they're just like, yeah, I don't believe in it, so I'm not going to do it. But it's like, what does it actually hurt to wear the mask? It's just like, just wear it. At some point you won't have to wear it anymore. I don't know when that is, but for right now, just go. And, Tamara, you were talking about how you've started wearing it when you go running. The people running are the ones that I'm always like, yeah, I get them not wearing it because it just makes it harder to breathe, especially on a hot day. And a lot of times you would see them, they would have it, maybe around their neck or have it somewhere. So, but the idea that it's like making the physical exertion that much more difficult for yourself, and you're still willing to do it. It just shows that it's like, yeah, it's I don't know, it's not that, I don't know, to me it's not a big deal. Am I missing something, Tamara?
I'm
Or
thinking of it as a sign of respect is what it
Yeah.
symbolizes for me, because of course I am also a person who feels like I'm not in danger. In fact, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I assume I work in tourism. For the past year, I'm around people from all over the entire world. I was in New York doing shows in February. Like, I feel like I have definitely been exposed to it, and I was probably asymptomatic. I'm not worried about it for myself, but like like Scott and Chelsea, everybody was just said, like you want to do it in protection of, everybody else. So I think we need to start thinking of the mask as a sign of respect rather than weakness, rather than Democrat, Republican, whatever the mask represents to anybody at this point. If we thought more that it is as a sign of respect, I think that could be something more, bridging this divide.
Yeah, somebody needs to come out with a mask that says "because I respect you" across it, and maybe that'll go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, or just a mask that it's made for each individual, where it just looks like the lower half of their face, so then they don't have to feel like they look weird. Just to change topics entirely. We talked about how Joe Biden was wearing a mask yesterday on Memorial Day. Uh, if you can imagine being anybody on the communications team for Joe Biden, there are probably a lot of other times where you wish he would also be wearing a mask, and maybe you're able to tighten it. And then when it's time for him to answer a question, you loosen it, and then you can tighten it again. Because obviously the comment that he made while being interviewed by Charlemagne the God is it's obviously very unfortunate. But if you've seen the whole clip, his communications guy was trying to wrap up the interview. So they were done. All Joe had to be like, yeah, I'll see you next time I'm in New York. And instead, Joe Biden's like, you know what I'm going to say on the way out? I'm going to say that if you're thinking you might vote for Trump, then you ain't black. And first of all, he's using slang, and he's, I don't quite know what makes Joe Biden think that he's the one who gets to determine
Right. Be the
anyone's
authority.
blackness. But look, to President Trump's credit, within a couple hours, there were T-shirts available on his website that said, I think it was, quote, "You ain't black," and then it was attributed to Joe Biden. They're planning to spend $1 million on a viral campaign really focused on this one issue. He's got some money to spare, and I'm not even talking about his own money, which arguably he doesn't have his own money. But in any case, so you hear that and you're just like, what is it with this guy? Like, he probably thought like, oh, he's gonna think this is really funny. It's like, kind of like, let me get one more in on the way out. But I can't believe that the interview would have been over. He didn't have to say anything else. His guy had been the bad guy. And he's like, yeah, Jill has to use the Zoom machine now. I don't know. Chelsea, your thoughts on I go very close to calling him president a lot. Vice President Biden's comments about race.
Well, wow. I just wow. What this does in my mind is it now shifts the VP picks. That's where my mind goes about this. No more Amy Klobuchar. And frankly, I'm glad that it means no Elizabeth Warren, because I want Elizabeth Warren to replace Mitch McConnell as thank you. I mean, for people wanting
and look,
Elizabeth Warren
I'm sure Elizabeth Warren wants to also run for president herself again. You know what I mean? So I think for her, it's not a great career path for her to be VP anyway.
Senate Majority Leader Warren, come on, people. So there's really no way to reconcile, what Joe Biden says, to make it make sense, to make it defensible. It just, has no place. I mean, I guess the only defense is, well, the other option is Trump, but that is a terrible way to justify this. And how's that whole moderate thing going, people? I don't think it's going that well. But anyways, I guess I don't need to poke that bear. I'm just going to say no VP Warren. That's all I got.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that, this incident in and of itself is certainly something that he'd be able to weather, but, well, a lot of candidates could weather. You have to wonder, it's like, oh, in trying to do damage control from this, Tamra, is he just going to say something worse?
Yeah. Yeah, you betcha. Of course he is. Like, this is, in so many ways with Biden, I'm sort of understanding a lot of where Republicans have come from in things like when I say, like, how can you listen to Trump give a speech and not cringe? Oh, now I understand, like, you have to support this person that I mean, it's funny, but it's really unfortunate actually that, I'm going to have to vote for a person that in so many ways, I never would have. But yeah, it's making me understand how a lot of Republicans have felt for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, you had plenty of people plenty of Republicans and even actual conservatives who definitely held their nose and voted for Donald Trump because they didn't want to vote for Hillary. And they're going to do the same thing again because they're like, there's all these things that even they don't like about him. But, I saw earlier that obviously it's only May, but that President Trump has like a 3% lead on Joe Biden in Utah, of all places. So, that's a perfect example of people who in every way morally oppose everything about President Trump, but ultimately they're going to vote for him.
Yeah. Joe Biden is very Catholic. I believe one of the books he wrote was very centered on his Catholicism. I don't know why he's not leaning more into those types of things that, people who are religious and they are voting for Trump only because they need to vote for the Republican. I think things like that would really benefit Biden for certain. There are certain I'm just saying there are certain demographics where I don't understand why Biden isn't leaning into certain areas that would, I feel, really help him with certain demographics. Whereas,
Yeah. No, look, there's a great comparison because we'll talk in a moment about how President Trump said that churches are essential and they should be reopened. I think that the easy counter to that is, for Biden to say, like, what do you care? You're not going to go.
Yeah.
You never go. I go to church. I'll actually go, it's like, but I know what you're saying though, that is an issue. And I think that you certainly have people that feel a little weird about Catholics. There was always that idea. Obviously, we're going back 60 plus years ago, 80 years ago now. I don't even know. My math's not what it used to
JFK.
be.
Now we
Yeah,
have
JFK
in charge of the
JFK,
United States.
exactly. The idea was that, like, before that campaign, it was like, well, he can't win because he's Catholic. It's almost, so I don't know, but go ahead, Scott.
Well, I was just going to kind of go back just a little bit. I mean, the thing that is about Biden that we've known from the very beginning, that was part of it, even 2008, is that he's a gaffe machine. Doesn't make it okay. But I think the difference is, Tamra, is that at least Democrats are more willing to call him out and he apologized, versus the Republicans that continue to just let Trump get away with stuff. Because
just bend over backwards.
Because my biggest issue is, and it goes back to the sexual assault charges with Tara Reid. It's like they will continue to call out Biden for these things and these gaffes and everything and all that. But then it's just hypocrisy to me, because this whole weekend alone, you saw Trump go on about conspiracy theories. You saw him retweet, that jerk calling Stacey Abrams Shamu, calling Hillary Clinton a skank. He's doing this throughout the weekend and it gets no attention at all, which is, again, he does more in one day. That's 1,000 times worse than what Joe Biden said, which again, I'm not saying it's okay what Joe Biden said because it was wrong. But at least he came up and said, look, I messed up. I apologize. I got too comfortable. I was trying to make a joke or whatever it was, which every politician does. But the point is, Democrats were calling him out quite a bit over the that time period, whereas you don't see Republicans doing it at all. They just let him, they just sit back and say, oh, it's fine, it's okay. And about the religious thing, I think it's a fine line for Democrats. I mean, Mayor Pete was bringing that up during the primaries. It's a tough line for Democrats because I think Republican or religious voters are always going to lean Republican, because even if Joe Biden is talking about religion, they know that at the end of the day, when he's in, his Supreme Court justices are going to go for pro-choice type judges, and they're not going to be going in the Republicans have gotten a lock on that, and with evangelical voters and everything else. I think Catholic voters and obviously a lot of Jewish voters, and there are blocks of religions that still do trend Democratic. So I think he does have more Catholics now than Hillary Clinton did in 2016 as of the latest polls. But it's a tough line because most Republicans feel, or most voters that are religious feel, that Republicans are going to have their back when it comes to the interests that they want, which is why they vote for Trump, even though he's not religious at all. So that's a hard one to kind of square for, I think, a lot of Democrats. But I think it's an important topic too, that it's not just the Republicans that should have a lock on that vote.
Right.
Can I piggyback off of that? And I will.
Sure.
The part about Joe Biden apologizing sort of like went over my head. But now that you point out that he did, I'm like, well, actually, that should say a lot, that somebody can apologize, because it seems to me that Trump supporters believe an apology is a sign of weakness. Apology and masks make you weak and fearful or something. I don't know. And strength is never backing down from what you say. And it's just I don't know whether to call it immature or unevolved, but if you never apologize, that doesn't make you strong, wise, or enlightened in my world at all. And I can't seem to get why that doesn't carry more weight. An apology, like it didn't even stand out to me, and I think that of that as something that is a strength. And about the religion, I think that since the time of JFK, it sort of seemed like Republicans are the party of religion, so then Democrats had to be the party of non-religion. And I think that is a mistake. And I think that's just making it too black and white. I think we should embrace nuance. I think that Democrats should embrace their religion, spiritual practice, whatever it may be, because to be the party of no faith, first of all, that doesn't represent me or most Democrats that I know, but it just plays into the fact that we have to be the very opposite of what they are. And I think we should grow out of that.
Yeah, no. I definitely think that, yeah, I mean, look, there are obviously plenty of religious people who will, of course, vote for a Democrat. And you just have to make it clear that it's like, yeah, but obviously not everybody believes this. Not everybody believes in everything. And we're okay with that too. But I did, so that was, saying that we got to open all the churches, which is, I don't know, the most pandering of comments for a guy who doesn't go to church. And then the other thing
he meant church's chicken, Christian.
Oh, well, that actually changes everything. I agree with that. Hashtag release church's chicken. See, I'm glad you explained it to me. All right. You know what? I agree with him on that. I'll retweet that one. The other thing he said, we only have a couple of minutes, but the other thing he said was that basically after someone was on Fox News saying that schools need to be reopened because students don't spread coronavirus and are more likely to die crossing the street. So then President Trump said, well, we need to reopen our schools. And obviously reopening schools is, of course, critical to helping the economy because parents can work if their kids are at school. I mean, obviously there's more to it than that, but but just this idea that this one guy said that kids don't get it, it's not that there aren't instances of children getting it. Children have died. You're reading stories about just weird respiratory conditions that some kids get. And it's obviously everything that you get, all these numbers, you're like, yes, it's a small percentage, but what if that's your kid? So it's like, all right, so you want to reopen the schools. Great. Let's make sure that obviously Barron goes back to school. on day one. And I feel like poor Barron would probably have to go just so that Trump can make a point. Melania might not want him to go to school. And I think that, it's really, that's what it is. He's just banging the same drum. It's like, we got to open the churches. We got to open the schools. And there's no real indication that these are necessarily good ideas. I saw for California that churches, I think, will reopen within the next week or so, and it's going to be 25% capacity. It's like, yeah, I think that that's smart, but I don't think that's what he means. He just means like, yeah, churches should be open like a regular Sunday. And I think that it kind of emboldens a lot of people, including somebody who's in our chat right now for this show, that these notions are that, well, you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. And look, the president isn't worried about it. So why should we be worried about it? The president isn't worried about it because he wants people to be able to vote for him. And, there's not really enough time to kind of dive into this, but it's like the idea that you're opening schools is like, okay, these are kids though. They don't get to decide like, hey, are you comfortable going to school? If school's open, you have to go. Sure, you can decide to continue homeschooling your kids, but that's a whole process. So I don't know. I think that it's infuriating, not so much that he says it, but because he's saying it because all these other people are like, yeah, this is a really good idea. And then it just kind of perpetuates this idea that the churches and schools need to be open. Go ahead, Chelsea.
This is coming. He retweeted the same guy on Fox that said that you don't want what is it? He called you don't want the cure to be worse than the disease.
Yeah.
Whatever
right.
That silly line was. It's the same guy. So, for all of Trump's promises that I'm going to have the best people around me to inform me of things, we know that really isn't the case. And he just likes one dude on Fox. Well, several dudes on Fox News, but this one guy, he keeps literally parroting what he says on the show.
It's basically everybody except for Chris Wallace, basically, who we don't have time to dive into it, but Chris Wallace tore into the new press secretary for making the point that what Democrats and the liberal media want is for the churches to be closed. And despite the fact that the person asking a question about it was someone who made the point that they go to church. Anyway, we did run out of time, as we so often do, but unfortunately, we're all going to be around. We're all going to be here next week. We don't have anywhere to go. We still have plenty to talk about. So you'll be able to find us next Tuesday. Until then, Tamra, where can people find you?
Find me on TikTok at Hey Tamra.
TikTok. Look at you.
Ooh.
Very exciting.
Somebody tell me young kids hang.
Somebody tell me what TikTok is, and I'll see if I can follow you on it. Scott Moore, where do people find you?
I was going to say they can find me on Facebook with all the old people. Now on Twitter at sman80. That's sman80. And
Chelsea, where can people find you?
Twitter at Chelsea Galicia.
And you can find me on Friendster and MySpace, and also on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. But we will be back next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. So until then, take care, and we'll see you then.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.